Hi everybody, and welcome to another Getting Started. Now, this week we're going way back to one of the original heroes of Heroes of the Storm, Muradin. But Muradin's getting a lot of attention recently for a couple different reasons, so let's get in and we'll talk about him, and I'll tell you why I might be in love with this little dwarf man. So first of all, like any getting started, let me go ahead and say that the build you're about to see is by no means the default build. Anytime you get into the game, you're going to want to give consideration to your team comp, the enemy team comp, and what you're comfortable with. This is mostly just a suggestion to get you started. Now, Muradin was one of the first heroes that I actually really got into in this game, way back in the alpha days. And I kind of just dropped him. I dropped him in favor of other tanks that I was liking a little bit more, and he kind of fell by the wayside. But I've started playing with him some more, and I've kind of rediscovered a love for this character. He's really fantastic, and I want to kind of go over real quick just what makes Muradin so great. So, thing number one, Muradin has a skill shot stun on a pretty low cooldown, and that's his Storm Bolt. It's a 10-second cooldown. As you can see, skill shot, you gotta land it, but it's a good, reliable stun, which is very useful for a warrior to have because you're going to be in the front lines, and being able to be in a position to interrupt a clutch heal or a high damage move or a channeled ability is going to be very useful. His W ability, Thunderclap, is pretty decent damage and slow, which both of those things are very useful in the game, and the build we're going to be doing is going to kind of build around that. And finally, he has Dwarf Toss, which acts as both an escape and an engage. It does do a little bit of damage. Basically, if you land on the enemy, you can see the little inner ring around him. But mostly, if there's something going on that you need to get away from, you can Dwarf Toss away, or if there's an enemy that you need to chase down, it's a good way to get in. With the slow that's attached to Thunderclap, it's a nice little combo to jump over the enemy and make them walk right into a slow to help your team close the gap. So those are kind of the core abilities. Let's also just real quick talk about his trait, Second Wind. Basically, if he is out of combat for 4 seconds, he starts regenning his health faster. If he's low on health, he heals even more. That's the basics. Let's get into the talent build, and I'm going to just go through this real quick. A lot of people are referring to this talent build as Attack Muradin. And while you're not going to necessarily be leading any charts, you're not going to be going crazy, he does do some pretty surprising damage and can go toe-to-toe with a lot of characters you might not expect him to be able to. So the first thing you're going to want to take is Reverberation. Now, Reverberation is going to reduce the attack speed for heroes and summons. That is not going to be useful 100% of the time, so also keep an eye on your enemy team comp. You may want to take Perfect Storm instead, which reduces Stormbolt's mana, and will also have a quest talent to make it do more damage every time you hit a hero with it. I like both of these talents. I prefer Reverberation because against auto-attack heroes, it's just very useful. But if you find yourself getting mana-starved or they don't have a lot of auto-attackers, Perfect Storm's the way to go. At level 4, you are going to want to take Thunderburn. Thunderburn makes Thunderclap hit twice, which is super cool. So basically, once we take this, you'll see, I hit it, it crackles for a minute, and then it pops again. So you kind of get 2 hits on it, and you'll see with some of the abilities that we take later, there will be another little bonus that goes along with that. At level 7, I like to take Iron Forged Momentum. Basic attacks reduce your ability and cooldowns by 0.75 seconds. Now, you'll notice 10-second cooldown, 8-second cooldown, 12-second cooldown, Muradin's cooldowns are not very long, so by taking this, you are actually making them even shorter, which means Muradin is going to be able to really just put out a lot of attacks very quickly. This is why he starts to become a little mana starved later on, and why another reason why you may want to consider a different level 1 talent, but ideally, you know, you get a chance to go to the fountain or go back to the Nexus after good team fights, so you should do pretty fine. You can really take whichever ult you prefer. Personally, I like Avatar because I like the extra survivability. We're not taking a lot of survivability talents with Muradin, so kind of taking that as an ult is a nice get-out-of-jail-free card if things start to go really bad, and we'll take one more of those before we're all done. At level 13, I like to take Healing Static. Basically, this is a heal when your Thunderclap hits enemies, but the cool thing about it is not only does it work on the first instance of it, but when it pops again, it also gives you healing on that one as well. So it's double healing, you get a lot of extra health, and so it's kind of another survivability talent, but in a very sneaky way. At level 16, give him the axe! Basically, all of Muradin's abilities, with the exception of Dwarf Toss, does some sort of slow or disable effect. So between what Muradin can do to the enemies and what your team can do, you are always going to be getting this bonus basic attack damage. It ups it by 60%. That's really significant. So definitely recommend picking that up. And finally, you can kind of do whatever you want with 20. Honestly, with how fast your cooldowns come back, Rewind is a little silly. I guess you could use it if you feel you absolutely need it, but I'm going to take Hardened Shield. Unstoppable Force, also not a bad way to go, especially if maybe you're against a team with a lot of crowd control. So, Hardened Shield, that's our Muradin build. Let's go ahead and get some minions and an ally out here so you can kind of see him in combat a little bit, doing his thing. And the big things you need to know with Muradin are just get in the middle, get as much out of your Thunderclaps as you possibly can. You know, make sure you're putting those down there. Make sure you're stunning when appropriate. And you can see he can get in there, and with that Skullcracker, he just really, or give him the axe, not Skullcracker. He just really puts out a lot of damage on enemy targets when they're disabled. So, between me and Malfurion here, you know, if he roots them, I can get that in, and you can see those auto attacks are doing some serious damage to him. Arthas has to retreat very quickly. And that's kind of where the name Attack Muradin comes from. You get to be very aggressive. You can see I'm not taking a lot of damage in response, but I'm managing to put out a good chunk of damage of my own. And so you just get in there, you stay in the thick of it. If things go bad, you've got your avatar to pop. You've got your shield that you can put up. All sorts of stuff you can do to make your life a little better. If you want to jump in, get in on the fights, you know, you can see those cooldowns are popping super quick, and it lets him just be very, very aggressive. And, you know, that's as a warrior going through this map at level 20. He stomps. He does a lot of damage. So the big things to just keep in mind is you will probably have enough time to Dwarf Toss as an engage, get in some auto attacks, do some fighting, and with your survivability talents, have Dwarf Toss back in time to be an escape later if need be. So don't be afraid to use it or feel like you can't use it, that you need to hold on to it, stuff like that. You can definitely be pretty aggressive with Dwarf Toss. Make sure that you are dropping your Thunderclaps right where they're going to do the most good. If you see an enemy retreating, don't be afraid to jump over them and do body blocks. All of these are going to be good goals. If you get into trouble, you've always got your avatar to give yourself some extra health. You've got your shield to give yourself a little extra there. So you are pretty darn durable while also still managing to be, you know, pretty damaging. And if you've watched any of these videos before, you know I really like to enhance the areas that I feel heroes are weak in, and this is definitely taking one of the things that Muradin's not particularly great at, which is dealing damage, and making it immediately one of his strengths. So I hope you all give it a try. He's a fantastic hero. He kind of always has been, but like I said, he's gaining popularity now because more and more people are trying builds similar to this and realizing the potential that old Muradin has. So give it a go, and we'll see you next time.